Greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome to the very first Scotch and Security Short. I wanted to do this session this evening. I had a discussion with a customer after doing one of my security assessments for them, and the customer was unaware that you could increase the default audit log file size on your Windows workstations, laptops, or servers. So this is pretty critical when we think of in terms of security, just because of the fact of that we don't have access to very much time in our audit logs. The default audit log file sizes are pretty small, and when you get into very active machines or when you bring in Active Directory, things like domain controllers, file servers, those log files can rotate very quickly. By default, Microsoft settings are set to a cyclic setting. That way, the oldest log will get overwritten by the newest log when that log file fills up. So one of the recommendations that I have to my customers as we come out of a security assessment is let's increase those default audit log file sizes first before we look at centralized log server or SIM, something like that. But let's make sure that we have a good amount of time of logging on premise before we look outside of those options. So what I want to show you this evening is some of the settings that I showed him today, letting him know where and how to manipulate those file sizes. So here I've just got the typical MMC open, and what we're going to do is we're going to bring in just the event viewer snap in for this machine, this local machine. And as you can see, this looks familiar. We've got our application, our security, and our system logs. Those are our core three, our big three, if you will. And so really all we need to do to increase those audit log file sizes is let's go to the log file itself, right click, and let's click Properties. And here we're going to have the options of what we can do and manipulate this log file. So as you can see, by default, the log file size is about 20 meg. And so depending on how active the machine is, depends on how much data could be in that 20 meg. But storage is cheap nowadays. When we look at workstations, laptops, and they're coming with larger hard drives, it's pretty cheap. It's pretty common. When we look inside of data centers, when we look at servers, server drives are quite large, and storage is cheap. Typically we have access to some kind of direct attached storage or some kind of storage on the network, SAN, or something like that. So if we increase these log file sizes from 20 meg to 125 meg, we're not going to break the bank, if you will. Our servers, our workstations, and laptops should definitely be able to handle, picking up an additional 400 megs worth of log file sizes. And my recommendation is just go and test this. We can go back, and once you increase these log files, come back in a week and see where you are at. See how much data you actually have access to. So we'll go ahead and we'll take this up to 125 meg on this log file itself. And we're going to leave the setting here, overwrite events as needed. Oldest events first. That's what I was talking about, that cyclic setting. And we can also go in and we can change this setting to say archive the log when it is full, but do not overwrite the events. This is another great setting, but I will err on the side of caution with this. It is great to go ahead and set up an archive every time the log file fills up. The problem with this is whether you do this in the manual settings or you do this through group policy objects through Active Directory, is there's no way to go in and actually set the setting of how many archive log files to save. So this will continue to create archive files until the hard drive fills up. So of course that would be bad. Now we're talking about a system outage. And so unless you have some kind of scheduled reminder or some kind of repetitive task to go in and delete those log file sizes, you could find yourself in some trouble. So maybe in one of the other shorts I will talk about the PowerShell script that I ran across, that you can go in and create a scheduled task. And you can run that PowerShell script on a scheduled task, and it will go in and let's just say we're going to delete any log file sizes older than 10 days. And then the last thing is do not overwrite. So clear these logs manually. I do not like this setting at all. I mean, the log file will fill up and it will not add any more logs to that file until you go in and delete that log. So I mean, the two options here, my first recommendation is this first. Let's increase the setting and leave it by the default to overwrite the event logs. And then let's talk about a centralized log server. If you have storage and you feel like PowerShell scripting, keeping those logs, maybe keeping 10 to 15 days worth of logs on a machine is great. I mean, that gives you, 2 weeks, up to 2 weeks of data that's on the machine that you can roll back to. So we'll leave it for overwrite, apply that. Oh, so it doesn't like my math. So I'll let it do the math for me and say okay. And we'll do the same thing for the security log. And I'll go ahead and let it do my math for me. And I'll do the system log. Alright, so now we can go back and we can see that it should have kept that. And now we should have plenty of data to roll back to now in the event that something happens. We're trying to troubleshoot something, or knock on wood, you're dealing with some sort of incident response and we need to go back and look at logs and activity for the last several days. But thank you for joining. Feel free to subscribe below, leave any comments, and hopefully I will get this channel off the ground and I'll be posting more stuff soon. Thank you.